Welcome to An Unconventional Life, a podcast where we share stories about the crazy 1% out there who earned their doctoral degrees and then went on to use them in crazy, cool, unique, and unconventional ways. Here's your host, astrophysicist turned teacher, author, dissertation coach, and more, Dr. Russell Strickland.
Hello, and welcome to An Unconventional Life podcast. This is your host, Dr. Russell Strickland, and I have with me today Dr. Pensacola Jefferson. I have known Dr. Jefferson for quite a long time, helped her a little bit on the dissertation path when she was working to earn her doctorate, and she has just gone crazy writing since we last worked together. She has published nearly 100 books, if you can believe that. 100. We're going to give you a little peek as to how you can get to Amazon and see some of what she's been up to. But Dr. Jefferson is going to share with you today her journey, some of the trials and tribulations she's been through, how she's overcome those, and how she's able to help folks these days that are going through their own journey. So, Dr. Jefferson, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. Today, I want to remind folks that this episode is brought to you by Dissertation Done. If you happen to be a doctoral student who is getting ready to start the dissertation process, maybe you're working on your dissertation right now, maybe you're struggling through it, maybe you're fed up with it and thinking about quitting. If you're at any of those points in the process, reach out to me at dissertationdone.com/done. That's dissertationdone.com/DONE. And let's have a conversation, see what's going on, and if you might be a good fit for our Fast Track Your Dissertation coaching program, where we get students to graduation a good year or two faster than they would on their own. And if by any chance you have earned your doctoral degree, or you're otherwise an expert and you have a message that you want to get out into the world, we can help you with that as well. Reach out to us at dissertationdone.com/book, and we'll see if we can get you from blank page to published author. As Dr. Jefferson is going to talk about today, it opens up a whole world of possibilities. The best thing that you can do from a credibility standpoint is to earn your doctoral degree. The best thing that you can do from an exposure standpoint is to become a published author. So we'd love to help you with that goal and get you to be a published author. Go to dissertation.com/book, and we'll make that happen. Dr. Jefferson, again, thank you for joining me here today. And I want to start off by asking you, you told me a little bit, you had a funny story about why you decided to pursue your doctoral degree. Share with folks what your reason why is for undertaking that journey.
Well, I know some people want the title doctor and stuff like that, but I had a childhood dream to be a professor. So I just wanted to become a doctor so somebody can say, Professor Jefferson, will you help me with this? And I would say yes. So after that, I don't care what happens to the degree. But also I wanted to shape education. So I always thought doctors got to write the questions and the answers. And so they had the opportunity to shape which direction education went in. And I wanted to be one of those too. So I think that's what a professor does. They help shape education. I just always had that dream.
And that notion of going out and helping people and directing the conversation,
yes,
I think it's important. It's a vital role in our society, and one which maybe not with a professor title, but one which you've certainly undertaken with your writing. So you've been able to leverage that degree in that regard, I think.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I do with the books, what that affords me to do is when I'm thinking about shaping education, I can also have an opportunity to go through the process and make learning on any subject a little easier.
Right.
The reason I never undertook the doctorate, and I looked at it for years and years because of the dissertation and the research. And I thought, I can't do it. I said it for years. I can't do that part. All the other classes were great, but the research has always stopped me.
Yeah.
But I
And we'll
finally,
talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but you
okay.
actually didn't have to do that part. That's kind of what we ended up doing together.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so we'll talk about that more. But let's go back to, so you were motivated. You wanted to get that professor title, but more so,
Right,
as you said, you want it to be influential. You want it to be able to shape the conversation. You want it to be able
right.
to make education more accessible to people.
Yes,
And that's why we work with folks here at Dissertation Done, is because so many people want to go out there and make this world a better place for their community, wherever that community is. It doesn't have to be your neighborhood. It could be, a group of people that you're trying to help, that are going through
right.
time in their lives, or whatever it might be. But that calling to help people, I think, is so important. That's why I enjoy working with folks like
Yes, yes.
well, tell me, once you got into school, how did that go for you? Just starting off your doctoral degree program, did you find those classes easy, hard? What was that like for you?
Well, I found because you're going from your master's program and into your doctorate program. So some of the classes are not too challenging, but they do have some more classes that took a little bit more time and research and and thinking. And so there was one when it was something like a school program.
Mm-hmm.
And what if you were over the whole staff and you had to get all that stuff together? They wanted you to put that together. And I really didn't find much research on it. It was very frustrating. And, I think I even cried over it. And it's the thing that made me want to quit, but I was determined to go. You have to be determined. You have to have your own self-motivation. So I was determined to get it, no matter how hard it was, no matter how much I cried, I was determined to get it. So I was able to do it, put it together, and I got an A on it. So sometimes, even if you think you can't do it anyway. Do it with doubt, and do it with fear, and do it when you're crying, and just do it and see what happens. So I said, I'm gonna do it and see what happens. So I was able to get it together, put the program together, and I was shocked myself. So that's what I've done a lot in my life. If you try it, you may shock yourself.
Yeah, but I like the way you said that you don't have to be confident all the time. You don't have to feel like I got this all the time.
Yes.
You can do it with doubt, and you can do it with fear, and you can still get it done. And it's going to move you closer to your goal.
Yes.
That, the only sure way to fail is to not do it, right? Is to quit.
Yes.
And you might fall along the way, but you don't really fail unless you quit. So, and that's why that reason why, that's why we usually start by asking our guests, hey, what was your reason why? Having a reason why as a big banner that's right out there in front of you that you can look at all the time is really, really important, because the difficulties will come. The reason to overcome has to be there so that you keep moving forward. So, all right.
I do say that, and I say that's why they call it a earned doctor, because at the end of it, you earned it.
Earned it. That's right.
You really earned it.
I agree. I do not like it when, and people will write this way all the time, where they'll say someone received a degrry. If they received the degree, they didn't do something right. There's a few. There's a school in my neck of the woods that got into trouble because their athletes were receiving degrees, not earning them. And I think they should have gotten a lot more trouble than they did, because it was very serious from an academic standpoint, what they were doing. But everyone who goes through a degree process, they should feel like they earned that degree.
Yes. And I do feel that way.
Now a lot of our students, you mentioned having some struggles in one of your classes as you're going through. A lot of our students are like, classes they weren't that hard. They almost feel embarrassed to say, the classes were easy. But there's invariably this point where you hit, usually it's the dissertation, and things aren't easy anymore. So everybody earns this one way or the other.
And you don't get cum laude, and you don't get all those honors in your doctoral program, because what one of my professors said, you are supposed to be working at that level. So you don't get any credits, for being an A student because you should be there.
Nobody's going to ask you what your GPA was when you have a doctoral degree. Right?
Yes. I realized, I said, I did so good. And when they said, well, that doesn't matter, I go, what? I was shocked. Highest grade point average, and it didn't matter.
No, well, I get students, they'll come to me a dissertation done sometimes like, oh, I'm a 4.0 student. I'm like, so?
I know.
So you're working on your dissertation now. You better take that 4.0 stuff and put it in the trunk, because
come on.
If anything, it's going to get you in trouble, because one of the things you got to worry about in the dissertation is getting things done.
Yes.
Being perfect. A lot of people, I'm that guy too. Look, I want things to be perfect. I like, 4.0. I think I did have a 4.0 going through my doctoral classes.
Yeah.
And I told them I wanted to take these classes pass fail. And they started giving me grades. And I was mad, because I was like, if you're going to give me a grade, I got to make sure it's an A.
Come on.
But I knew myself. I knew that's what I would do.
I got an A- and took my 4.0 down to a 3.98. And I cried over that. And my family said, you're sick. Something's wrong with you. And I cried over a 3.8 because I worked so hard, because I got an A-.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter anyway. That's
the thing. It's important while you're there, but you got to take the big picture approach and know this isn't going to matter. In fact, something I'll remind people from time to time, there's a special word they use for the person who graduates last in their class from medical school. Do you know what that word is?
No.
Doctor.
Okay, I get that one.
So two things. Number one, if you're going through and you're worried about an A or an A-, don't be. And the second thing is, if you've got to go to a physician's office, maybe talk to him a little bit and figure out whether he was last in his class or not.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
He's going to call him doctor either way. But that's another point. I'm sure that you guys, I've had this experience. Most of you guys have probably had this experience of going to a physician who is smart. You know it. This guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then you go to another physician and you're like, you're a doctor? They don't seem to be as smart. You don't have to be like super smart, intelligent, nerdy, genius person to get a doctoral degree, either a medical doctor or a PhD or EDD. You have to do work.
Yes.
That guy that's not so smart that your physician is still qualified, right? They're still going to be a good physician. You just recognize some people are smarter than other people. And that's truly true when you're going through this process as well. So determination is so important.
And that's what I think that got me through. You got to be determined to do it there. It's not going to be easy. And if somebody says, oh, they were easy, I really just don't believe every single class was easy, because some of those doctoral classes are going to take you outside of the box of education. So they have to challenge you in that way, because we are going to be up there with professionals, and we need to be able to do that kind of work. So I just don't believe even if you're smart. I think I'm smart too, but I realize there's some things I just don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Now that's important. And if you go through a doctoral degree program and you don't realize that there are so many more things that you don't know, and there are things that you do know, then you have a problem. Because that's the smartest of us out there realize that we don't know most of the things that are out there in this world.
Yes, we know we may be good in that area, that vein, but that doesn't mean we're good at everything. We have to sometimes surrender to somebody else's, brilliance.
It was drilled into my head in graduate school. If you don't know what you're talking about, well, don't talk. Tell them you don't know. That's okay.
Yes.
I remember one of my professors saying, listen, it's not okay to know nothing. That's not good enough.
Yes.
But it's absolutely okay to not know everything. No one knows everything.
Yes.
And you got to know what you don't know. And and that's very important too.
And be humble enough to, I think this being a doctor is also humbling if you face that truth, that I am gifted to know what I know, but I don't know everything. I can't answer that. I don't know that, you know.
And if you face that truth, then you should be humble. You should be able to talk with anyone, and you should be able to help anyone. That's one thing that I see some doctors having problems with, some folks who have their doctoral degree having problems with. And that is, thinking that they're better than everyone else, or trying to put other people down because they haven't gone through the same thing.
Right.
Now, it's okay from time to time when someone's, giving you problems to remind them that you are Dr. Jefferson.
Right. Now, I do have a problem with that some people try to put you there. Yeah. Well, you ought to know, doctor. So some people have an attitude about, you being a doctor, but I don't apologize for that because I know what we went through to get there. Right. But some people try to put you, if you say, I don't know. Oh, you don't know, doctor? And, you have to explain to them, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so some people have an attitude.
And that's where you can rise above. What was it?
Yeah.
I think it was Michelle Obama used to say, when they go low, we go high.
Yeah.
You don't have to get in mud and fight with them over that. You don't know doctors. Like, no, actually, I
don't.
And one of the most important things I learned is what I know and what I don't know.
Right.
And and when you know that, then we can start thinking about the stuff that we don't know, and
be okay with
it, making some educated guesses, trying to puzzle through some things, and we can do that together. I'm happy to do that.
Right.
But I'm going to start with, well, listen, I don't know. I know these things, and these things might help us figure some stuff out over here, but I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows, in fact. Or I might know. No one knows. People are investigating that right now. I might know that.
When I was going through my doctoral program, the class I told you about was not my area of expertise. Mm-hmm. But what it did show me is that, number one, I don't know everything.
Right.
But at least I can look at something difficult and at least attempt to tackle it. Yeah. So I was able to go and ask for help. Look, I'm not good at this. Could you give me any pointers? So I went out and found people who might know what I didn't know. So that's what it taught me, that I can face a problem and tackle it.
Yeah, and that to me is a real sign of strength, that someone can say, hey, I don't know this, but I think I know someone who could help me with this. I'm going to go out and get help. Because number one, it's recognizing a truth. It's just ridiculous to rail against reality and say, no, I do know that. No, you don't.
Right.
Admit you don't know it, and let's move on. That's not a punishment that you admit you don't know it. Just, you have to tell yourself, I understand I don't know this, because you can't fix the problem until you acknowledge the problem.
Yes. Oh God, yes.
And then when you say, I don't know this, if I need to know it, now I can go out and get help and figure it out. Even as a doctor, as a professor, as a Nobel Prize winner, there are many things I don't know.
Yes, and I'm okay with it. Doesn't make me a less of a person. So.
And you can be okay with not knowing, and I just will never know that thing. That's fine.
Yes.
Or if I need to know that for some reason, I can go out and get help, and that's fine. It doesn't make me a weak person to get help.
And I think you asking a why is a very good question, Dr. Strickland, because we need to know why, so we can see, well, is this a good reason to want a doctorate? Not so I can be a know-it-all, but so I can help people in the area I want to help them with, and that's it. So I can do what I want to do. So you have to, I think that's a good question. Why did you pursue it?
I always want to know the answer to that question, because invariably as a doctoral student, you are going to find that there's going to be a late night when you turn and look at the person in the mirror and you ask, why the hell are you doing this to me? Why have you got me doing this at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is?
Yes.
And if you can't get an answer back to that question that makes you say, oh, okay, that's a good reason.
Yes.
It's very easy just to say, well, to hell with this. I'm going to bed tonight. And I'm going to bed tonight turns into, I'm not going to start working on my dissertation tomorrow night, turns into, it's been a week since I even cracked open a book turns into, I'm out of the program.
Yes.
And that happens
Yes.
without you
Yes.
making a decision to quit.
Yes.
Just stop making the decision to keep going. And you have to make the decision to keep going over and over and over again to get through this thing.
Yeah.
That's
I started with a class of 36 and maybe 6 of us finished. We all started in the same program, same, category, and we would meet every so often at the school. And at the end, there was only 6 of us left.
Yeah.
So it is not a program that everybody will start and finish.
Yeah.
So it is challenging. So the classes, if somebody said it's easy for them, I would say, good for you. That was really a blessing. But for the rest of us, I know the people in my class, they struggled over this class or that class too. It's a different challenge.
And we do have students and people that say they struggled in a class or two, and sometimes more than that along the way. We have a lot of folks that say the classes were relatively easy because it's honestly, your doctoral classes, it's the same thing you've been doing since like 4th or 5th grade. It's reading something. They tell you what to read. They tell you what to write. You do it. They tell you when to turn it in. You do it. It's from 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. You're doing a page at a time. Read a page, write a page, something like that. You get to your doctoral degree, you're reading 20 or 30 pages, writing 20 or 30 pages. So the level's gone way up. But it's the same kind of thing. It's where a lot of folks face and not everybody, like you said, there's a lot of folks that face this in their classes, but a lot of folks face their first real challenge in school in a long time.
Yeah.
They kind of get thrown into the deep end with that dissertation. And the guy just says, go.
Yeah.
Universities will tell you what they want to see, but how to get there, the structure is just not there.
Yes.
I'll tell folks it's kind of like Michelangelo wheels David out of the studio, and you're looking at the statue, and then he goes back in the studio and he wheels a block of marble out, and he says, okay. And you're like, well, I can see where you want me to go, but
how do I get there?
I don't know how to get there.
Yes, process.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of folks say. The process is there in the classes. So yes, there could be a challenge, and certainly when we say easy, everything's relative, right? So these people are saying the classes are easy. They've been through the dissertation, and so they know what's coming. They weren't saying it was easy necessarily when they were in the class, but they at least understood the process. They knew what to do. They were getting it done. They're getting A's and B's on their classes. Whereas when you hit the dissertation, you feel like you're getting D's and F's on that dissertation.
Yeah, I did too. I got straight A's too, but it didn't always feel like. They
easy
just was so hard.
Would use.
Yeah, it was so hard. And then with the research itself, I just didn't think I could write a dissertation. It has so many components, but they gave us a class on each component. And then when we were able to break it down into bite-sized pieces, and I could understand the process when it actually came to the dissertation, I was ready to write it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What was that process like for you? Like you mentioned that you found some of the classes difficult, but you were just alluding to maybe you didn't think the dissertation was as difficult. Tell me, how did that process go for you?
Well, you know how you have to write your initial one, you have to give them a synopsis of what it's going to be about. So you take a class on how to write that synopsis, how to write it without emotions, and everything has to be based on fact, and how to write without putting emotion in there. That was really very hard for me.
For a lot of people.
So it was just so learning how to write in this critical thinking type of way, but breaking it down into what they want. This is what they want, and keeping that focus. Make sure you don't go way out in left field where they lose you. So I really going through each piece, breaking it down, seeing it in pieces, really made it understandable, made it easy when I got ready to do it. And then I was told you need to talk like a scholar. So when I presented it to my chair, I had to talk like I knew what I was talking about on this subject. So
Right.
I tell you a funny story. When I did do my presentation,
Yeah.
and and I talked scholarly like they told me to. So one of my chairs said, "Okay, Dr. Jefferson, now tell me what you really mean in
Right.
layman terms."
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. I said, "What?" He didn't understand the. So I laughed
Now break
about
it
that.
down.
He said, "Now that you're one of us, tell me what you really meant." That was priceless.
Yeah. And that's something that's important that folks need to learn, when you spend all this time learning how to write without emotion and in a scholarly tone and everything. After that, for most people, if you're not going to continue doing research as your career, which most of the folks in my audience, that's not who they are. They work
Right.
with regular people, so to speak. Then you got to relearn how to write with some
Yeah.
emotion. And you bring in stories and
Yeah.
anecdotes and make people feel good. And it's okay to make
Yes.
people feel sad sometimes when that's what the story needs to convey. Um, how did you switch back? Well, tell me
Well,
about the transition. After a lot happened to you after
yeah,
after you
right. The
graduated. So
same
let folks know
year,
about that.
yeah, you helped me out. You helped me with the statistics and stuff like that. And you and I were supposed to get back together. But that same year I had a brain bleed
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up having to have brain surgery. So I had what they call an anterior venous malformation, AVM for short.
Right.
And with one of them, you only have a 20% chance to live. I had two. So my chances to live was really
Oh, so
slim.
good.
And so they
Yeah.
told my family, get her house in order.
Yeah.
She's not going to make it. So I was in ICU maybe 30 days. I was in rehab. So I think I stayed in the hospital about 30 days. When I came home, I couldn't even walk.
See.
And
And so
anyway,
aren't you glad, Pensacola, that doctors don't always know everything?
oh gosh. Oh gosh. I
We were
mean,
just talking about it, but
yes,
that's a good time.
yes. Yes, and it was a very spiritual. I was in a coma. In fact, I was
Yeah.
telling you, I can hear people talk, and you wake up and go to sleep in a coma,
Mm.
just like you do full consciousness. So when I came
How long were
out,
you in that coma?
about just 2 weeks. I was only in there 2 weeks, which I was
Still a long
glad. That
time.
was a blessing.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel scared or afraid or anything like that. But when I got home in 2015 after 3 months. And the first 6 months is very important with healing. So, as far as the direction of healing, so I couldn't let my pressure, I had to be stress free.
Right.
So I ended up coming from Maryland. I was in Maryland. I was in George Washington Hospital. So I went there. I had one of the best doctors. He had been on Oprah. His hands were very steady. So he's the one who did my surgery. I was really blessed to have him.
Absolutely.
So a lot of blessings and good things were around my brain surgery. But in 2016, I began to write. It just all of a sudden, all these books just began to pour out of me, and I couldn't stop. So in the last 4 years, I've written most of those books. It's just nonstop. I can just sit all day, and toward the evening, I may have a half a book written. So, I mean, it was just pouring. And those books are 3, 4, some of them may be as much as 500 pages.
Wow.
And some of them required research, because when you get a concept in my book, I want to explain the concept. So as you study it, you have a concept in your mind about where this is taking you. So it was just amazing. It's still amazing to me now. But after that, in 2016, I wrote a set, a transformation set, and then it went from there. And I'm getting ready to finish a book now, so it hasn't stopped. But the research, when it comes to research, the critical thinking, I found a way to blend the two.
Right.
How to take critical thinking and emotional thinking and kind of help them work together. So you're taking fact and being able to link it with emotion in order to process through whatever it is that you're going through. So I think that the research is good because you get to add fact with a person's emotions. And so you find out they can be really linked together.
Yeah, and that's important that, when you're learning concepts, you want to make sure that they're based on fact and based on reality, but how you're
Yes.
processing certain situations is certainly that apply to you personally is an
Yes.
individual emotional thing. And so it's very good that you're able to include both of those in your
And
writing.
I think when you're a little older doing your dissertation, you got some life experience behind you. A lot of my books showed me that I had experienced a lot of things in life. So
Right.
I really don't like to write things that I don't, understand or
Right.
have some kind of real life experience myself. And I think I was telling you about a process when I was going through somebody rejected me, and not to internalize that. The
Right.
rejection is hurtful, is very hurt. That's the fact. Rejection hurts. It's a painful experience, but it doesn't change who you are.
Right.
So knowing how to process that fact, it doesn't change you. Yes, it hurts, the
Right.
emotional fact, but the fact, it doesn't change who you are. So
Right.
mixing those two together, it's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be disappointed, but that's all it is. Don't go past there. It's
Right.
just a hurtful experience, but it doesn't
You can have
change
more
you.
experiences.
Yes.
And certainly professionally, as someone with a doctoral degree, you get to choose those experiences more than a lot of folks do. You have more flexibility and opportunities.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
how is the writing? Obviously, it's been a cathartic experience for you. It's been something that's helpful to you in that way. How has it helped you professionally? Have you experienced people coming to you?
Yes. So sometimes people are going, and this is mostly a spiritual, since I'm a pastoral counseling. So I can take some of my chapters in a book and actually use them in therapy and give them that chapter to continue to study later on, and it's helped them sometime with processing through it. So I'm very, very kind of keen on process, because people, just don't, oh, you can do this, you're going to be okay, everything is going to be fine. But they want to know, after I leave you and I go home, how do I live this out?
Right.
So that's what I try to help them do. After you get home and you have this information by yourself, how does that play out in real life? That's what people want to know. So we can tell them all these wonderful theoretical things, but after I close my doors and you're not there, how do I live this out? So even when it came to being sick, and people will ask you, how are you doing? Most people really don't want to know.
Right.
They're asking you, how are you doing? But as soon as you tell them, oh, at least you're not dead, or they say something to negate. So I realize how, going through it myself, how it's important to really say, how are you doing? Really, how are you doing? Because I know when people ask me, and I say, oh, I'm fine, but last night I was crying in the corner. So sometimes people are not going to tell you because they know you're not really asking. So it made me a little more sensitive to say, how are you really doing? I really want to know how you're doing. And so sometimes people, oh, I'm fine. But when I say, no, how are you really doing? Then they say, this is really, then they'll tell you because they know you care.
Right.
So I'm more sensitive to that process that no one sees. How do I get through that part? And so that's where I try to be more helpful.
See, and I think it's a key point. You mentioned this notion of process. It's what we do with a lot of our students, anybody that we help with dissertation done, whether it's authors or dissertation students. The very first thing is, here's the process that you're going to go through, because when you have that blueprint, those step-by-step instructions, it gives people a lot more confidence. It gives people, first of all, confidence in you that you had the time and the sense to put together a process, a step-by-step way of dealing with the situation, so they feel like they're in good hands because they haven't thought through this and come up with a process. But just having that process then is it gives them a backbone. It gives them something to lean on It gives
Yeah.
them the strength that they need to move forward because
Yes.
there's certainty. And that's what people don't like, I think, is uncertainty. You go out and say, it'll be okay. Just keep working on it. Well,
Yeah.
I was not okay when I came to you.
Yeah. So
And if you tell me
yeah.
just keep doing what I was doing, I'm still not okay. Just because you said
Yes.
it'll be okay doesn't mean I feel that yet. You might be right that it will be
Yeah.
okay, but I don't feel that.
Yeah. Because
Give them the
how?
process, they feel it right
Yeah.
away.
I want to know how. What am I going to do? What's the next step? They literally need to know, where do I move from here? What
Right.
step do I take? Sometimes people really need to know that. I went to someone one time for help who had the title, the experience, and I really was desperate need. I needed an answer, and I figured this person always thought, acted like they had it. When I went to that person, they didn't have anything to give to me.
Right.
And I remember being disappointed, and I never went to them again.
Mm.
I mean, their answer, I was going, oh my God, because all this time they appeared to have the answer to be good in this area.
Right.
Then when I came with a problem in that area, they had nothing to give me. It's like going to an apple tree and there's no apples on the tree. So I was
You don't go back to that
disappointed.
tree again.
So yeah, so I think it's important when people go to you, sometimes you don't never know the level of desperation or how bad they may need an answer from you, no matter how they approach you. So sometimes you want to pay closer attention to what they're saying and what they need, especially if that's the way you presented yourself.
Right.
So as doctors, if people come to you, they may be looking for some of your apples. So you want to have some apples on your tree.
Right. Yeah. And like you've indicated, that notion of process, if you're going to help someone, have a process for doing that.
Yes.
I mentioned that with Dissertation done, we start off with giving folks a process. Here's how we're going to get you through to graduation. With Expand Your Authority, where we're helping folks write their book and get it published. Here's the process you're going to use to create the book. But
right.
Even in that, what we're telling them is in the book, you need to be outlining a process for your reader to benefit from your expertise. That's how your reader is going to feel connected with you and drawn to you to help them in other ways, is because you have laid out a process for them to get better. So this thing about process, it's everywhere. It's how we help people. It's how we tell people to help other people. It's really important. So if you are in a situation where, let's say you're working on your dissertation, make sure you have a process down for how you're going to get from here to graduation. You can come seek someone's help like mine. There are other people out there that can help. There are other people who've been through the dissertation process before that can maybe give you some sense of help. But you sit down and write out a process that's going to work for you, you're going to feel a lot better.
Yes,
now, I advise
truly,
you to get help
I
with
believe
this because
that.
it's so critical to get that process right. But having the process wherever it comes from is really important.
And understanding, even when it comes to research, when I came to you, I don't care. I thought I'm pretty smart. I can figure things out, but statistics just had my head going. I said, oh, I can't do this. Editing is not my favorite thing either. So you have to, those are things you definitely have to get some help on. You want your dissertation to be edited properly. You definitely want the statistics to be right. Definitely, because, if my book is out there now, it has statistics in it, and somebody may want to duplicate that and say, well, I want to know if that's true. There's no way I was going to get those numbers right. I couldn't figure it out. So, like I said, humility is a very important part of being a professional in any profession. You've got to know what you can't do.
I wouldn't say that you couldn't do it. I think you smartly chose to pick your battles. This is something that I'm going to have trouble with. It's not a strength. I can get help with it. So why don't I do that? Because there's no need for me to struggle with it when help is available. And that's the important thing. You don't have to throw your hands up in the air and say, oh, I can't do this in order to get help from someone. You just have to understand that, is this the most efficient use of your time and your resources to struggle through certain things?
And with me, like that perfectionist in me wanted to try to do it. So I made it harder on myself. So I had to learn the lesson of humility. It's okay. You don't know it. It's okay. And boy, when I gave it to you, it's like a bird flew off my shoulder. I said, why didn't you just do that in the first place?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're always trying to do everything ourselves, and it's okay to ask for help. So those are and I'm such a perfectionist that it was a lesson I had to learn.
Yeah. And that's true. Most folks who go through this process are perfectionists, and you have to learn to put that down. That's a bag of bricks, and you just got to set that down. People that are perfectionists don't get a whole lot done. People who are okay with good enough, that can be prolific. And I'm sure that there's you've reached a point with the writing. I'm sure you're not going back over these books every single one 10 and 15 times, making sure it's all perfect. You're saying, you know what? I got this message out. I feel like this is going to be helpful to people. Put that out there, and let's do the next thing. Right.
Yes. And I think writing a dissertation gives you the confidence to go ahead and write books and stuff. You gain a little more confidence. Like if I'm writing about a subject, I always say from this perspective. So I always said, it's not every perspective, but from this perspective, this concept is going to mean this in this chapter. So you give them, this is what this concept, you don't have to agree with it. It's just a perspective.
The way I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Yes. So even when it comes to helping somebody with the process, I would say this is the way that I did it, but this is not a set in stone. You can take this process and fit it into your personality.
Right.
Because sometimes when we copy, that becomes hard too, to try to copy exactly.
True to yourself.
So I said, this is just a guideline, but it's not set in stone. You may be able to take this same process and fit it into a way that suits you. So that kind of takes the pressure off a person too.
Yeah.
Just because I did it this way and it worked, it's just a guideline, but it's not set in stone. It doesn't mean you can't modify it to work for you.
And when we set up our process for students, I mean, that's one of the first things we do is we talk to people before we agree to work with them to make sure that our process is a good fit for them. Because if it's not, then we're not going to be good working together. I feel like I can help most anybody if they really want that help, but it's got to be a good fit for them.
Yes. And you did. I remember when you talked to me, Dr. Strickland, you were like that. You really talked to me, asked me what I wanted, and you did talk to me. I felt very peaceful and confident when I was so happy, so thankful, and you really did make it easy for me. Really. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that because that's definitely the goal is to make it less stressful and less frustrating. That's for sure.
Yeah. I admire you because I said anybody who can do statistics, that's not easy stuff. I said that's some difficult stuff. Really.
Well,
so you have to really have an analytical mind.
Yeah, we try to keep it as easy as possible for folks. I'm a big science and math geek, so I do like that stuff. But to understand what you need to for your dissertation, you don't have to be. I talk to students all the time. You may remember when we had this conversation during your study. We'll talk about the statistics in their study, and we won't say any words that sound like math pretty much the whole time. We won't talk numbers pretty much the whole time. Because it's about concepts and understanding. And ultimately, it's about numbers. We look at the numbers and say, okay, well, these numbers say it's this way instead of that way. The important thing is it this way or that way? But ultimately, you have to look at the numbers to see. But understanding why are we looking at those numbers, and when we look at them, how are we going to make a decision? That's the important
And when you finished, I understood what you found out. I
Yeah.
understood I had to know how to write it. So
Right.
you explained it to me so I could write it up. You did. If you hadn't explained it to me, there is no way I could have finished that part of the study. So you did explain it to me in a way that I was able to write it
And
up.
that's the
So
point, is that you need to be able to report, present, and defend your results.
yes.
But this is the way it is in the quote real world, right? If you see a
Yeah.
person, male or female, in a suit standing up in front of a bunch of people talking numbers, I can virtually guarantee you that person didn't run those numbers. That person's
Yeah.
probably a business leader or CEO or something like that, maybe a mayor or a governor or a president or something. They had someone run those numbers for them.
Yeah.
And they said, here's the answer, here's what it means. And that's the important thing, is to be able to convey to the people that you're trying to explain, to teach, to motivate, or to persuade. Tell them
Yes.
what these numbers mean, so that they
Yes.
understand why you're
Yes.
making a decision or advocating for a certain decision.
And you realize that writing a dissertation, you're not going to do it by yourself. You need help.
Yeah.
So there's nothing greater, at least not to me, that after the paper was finished and I did my presentation, nothing moved me. I was in tears when they said, "Congratulations, Dr. Jefferson."
Absolutely.
That was awesome. Because you work for it, and that was
Yes.
1 degree more than any. I've got associate, bachelor's, master's, but nothing was more rewarding than a doctorate degree.
Yeah.
Because I worked for it.
You work for it, and it's the top, it's the pinnacle. And to have them tell you, congratulations, Dr. Jefferson, those are some of the most emotional words you're ever going to hear.
Yes.
Even when going into that defense, you know that you're ready, you know that you're prepared, you know that you're going there to pass. You're not going there to see if you pass. They didn't invite you because you might fail. They invited you because you were ready.
Yes.
But even so, hearing,
it's so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It really is nerve-wracking. So you go there like the statistician, the editor, your chair, all these things. You got to pass the classes. You got to pass the comprehensions. You got to finish the dissertation. One of my professors told me, don't try to discover the world or solve the world. He said, do a very basic. He said, he said the basic thing was a survey. He said, that's the easiest one. Do a very basic dissertation. Do not solve the world for your dissertation. So that advice helped me a lot. He said, do it. This is your basic thing, a survey, get it done. Don't do anything complicated. And that's what I did. I listened to him.
We tell everybody that's exactly what you should do.
Yes.
We didn't get to, so it's late in 2020 right now as we're recording this episode. We didn't get to see the Summer Olympics this year due to COVID. But in the Summer Olympics, they have this event where a guy or a girl is running up to this bar that's like several feet up above the ground, and they jump over it. They land on this big mat on the other side. It's called a high jump.
Right.
And when they do that now, they use a technique that was developed in the 60s, where they run up and they go over backwards, and they are literally scraping their butt over that bar to get to the other side. It's called the Fosbury flop. But that's what you need to be thinking about with the dissertation. You're not up there doing backflips, getting style points. You're scraping your butt over the bar, doing it.
Come on.
What needs to be done to get done, not trying to do a whole bunch extra, because the university is going to put that bar up there high enough there, and they're not going to lower it. That's where it is. You don't need to raise it beyond that.
Yes.
Because you don't get any credit for clearing the bar by like 1.5 feet. You get credit for clearing the bar.
Best advice. That was the best advice ever. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
And I took that. He said, this is survey is the very basic. Make it simple. This is all you need. This is, you don't need any more than this many people. Yep. I mean, I listened to everything he told me, and that's how I got it finished.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you're out there trying to figure out how to keep your dissertation simple, reach out, because that's
Yeah.
exactly what we do is we try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yes.
So
And
that
and
the
like I
university
said, the
will
way
accept
you
it.
explained it, Dr. Strickland, I would have never been able to look at it on my own and explain what you discovered. So you explained it to me, and I had to report it in the dissertation
Right.
where it was acceptable.
Right.
So had you not explained it to me, I wouldn't have been able to report it properly. So that really made a difference.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was journey. And when I finished, I mean, I really felt I had earned that doctorate.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of the classes, I'm proud of all those degrees, but the doctorate,
it's a big
that
one.
was a different story.
It's a big one. That's true.
Yes.
So, well, Dr. Jefferson, what else would you share with people before we go here, in terms of maybe opportunities that you've experienced since you graduated? Because that's one of the things I like to have people keep focusing on what's out there. And there are so many amazing opportunities for folks once they earn this degree. Any stories to share about things that you've experienced since you graduated because you had your doctoral degree?
Well, I think that the one thing that, always helps is I'm always chosen to speak. I'll go ask Dr. Jefferson to speak, ask Dr. Jefferson to write this. So people do tend to call on you more when you have your doctorate than they did before, because, let her do this, let her do that. But the one thing
and the things they're asking you to do, this isn't like have her take out the trash. I mean, these are people coming to you for leadership positions is what it comes down to.
Yes. And that's what it comes down to. And so you when you get in a position of leadership, though, you also put yourself up there for not only compliments, but criticisms too. Yeah. There are people who are looking to do both. And so you do have to have the character to be able to deal with both types of people. You don't want to defend yourself over here. You don't want to get a big head over here. So you want to be able to be balanced within yourself. I'm just a person who have been gifted to have this, and I'm happy to help. I don't know everything. That's okay.
You want to be balanced within yourself, but don't take that to mean you want to be balanced within the world. There are people that you're out there that you're able to help. And there are other people who won't like the help that you provide, the philosophies that you espouse, whatever it is. The way that you think about things and the way that you encourage people to move through their situation is going to be unique to you. It's going to call certain people to you, and it's going to push other people away from you. And if you don't have people who are detractors, then you don't have anybody you're truly helping. So don't be afraid to have people who are criticizing you. It means you're out there making some noise.
Yes. So I think that if there's anything, I think with your dissertation that, or any talent, is you have to have character. That character is more important than whatever you possess, because with character, you can take your skill and use it with wisdom and dignity and integrity. So I think your character is important. When you hold this kind of responsibility, character is very important, because the way you treat people, even with people who don't treat you well, still don't let it change who you are. Still treat them with kindness and dignity. You don't go. So you have to have character to be able to deal with leadership. So you have to be a servant. We're not just leaders, but we're also servants and examples of people. But it takes character.
Which goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Know what you know what you don't know. When you know all these things that you don't know, then it's easier to be humble and to approach anyone on any level. And I think that's important.
Yes.
So awesome. Well, Dr. Jefferson, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you? I know you've got all the books. We're gonna put some links in the show notes to some of your books on Amazon. Not all of them, because it'll take forever.
There's so many.
But you mentioned you also do counseling. What's the best way
Yes.
if someone wants to continue this
Well,
conversation
if you
with
want to
you?
go to Yada Counseling, Yada Counseling, YADA, and it's a spiritual counseling. So if you're interested in a more closer spiritual relationship and, mind, body, and spirit, then I'm the one to go to. You can go to Yada Counseling. You can find the books. You can contact me through text, Facebook, Instagram, Goodreads. It's all on
And all
that
of that's right there
website.
through yadacounseling.com. We'll make
Yes.
sure we put the link in the show notes.
Yes.
People can go there. And I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journey and some of the wisdom that you've learned along the way, and hopefully helping inspire some folks to follow in your footsteps.
Thank you, Dr. Strickland, for everything. Thank you for this opportunity and the one you gave me several years ago.
You're welcome.
From my heart. I mean that from my heart.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. Just I want to remind everyone this episode has been brought to you by Dissertation Done. So dissertation students, reach out to us at dissertationdone.com/done. We'll see if we can help you to fast track your dissertation, get you to graduation sooner than any of your peers. And if you're already out there and you're an expert, you need to get more exposure. You want to up level your authority platform or expand your authority. Coaching programs, the way to do this, will take you from a blank page to a published author faster than you thought possible, unless perhaps you're Dr. Jefferson, who thinks she can get it done in a day. But you can reach out to us at dissertationdone.com/book, and we'll have that conversation. Again, Dr. Jefferson, thank you so much. I really appreciated having you here today.
Thank you too, Dr. Strickland.
And to everyone else out there, have a wonderful day and go out and live your unconventional life.
Woo!
This has been An Unconventional Life. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe now to keep getting inspirational stories of unconventional lives as soon as they're released. Until then, go out and live your best unconventional life.